Alright, clap it up. Now today, as part of our celebration, we celebrate our, defeat of the Greeks, right? When they was taking over our land. So that's why we light the candles to celebrate, us basically getting out of, this part of this captivity, right? Let me see here. That's why we do that. See, while everybody else was celebrating Thanksgiving, they was celebrating defeat, right? Defeat of their brothers. That's what Thanksgiving is all about. They was thanking they God, white Jesus, that they beat the Indians and took their land, which is basically what happened, right? So we gonna get into a part of, we gonna just show you how devilish this beast is today, right? That, because y'all heard, like all growing up, black people need to pick themselves up by the bootstrap, right? You all heard this. The reason why is black people doing so bad? They don't, what they say, they're not ambitious, right? They don't own businesses. They don't own, they just want to work for somebody. They want to live off the government. That's what you hear, right? But they don't tell you about all of the cities. It was parts in every major town that had wealth in it, right? Literally had wealth. So even Martin Luther King was not even from a poor family. He didn't grow up broke like we do, right? He didn't grow up broke like that. He grew up well-to-do. He lived good, right? We don't get into more about, what he did. He personally made sure that there would never be another Black Wall Street, right? Because he didn't care about black people doing good. He cared about himself doing good, right? So, and that's why, like Christian pastors, that's why, like, Christianity is the worst thing for us. It literally is the worst thing for us. Christianity is what keeps us from actually rising and doing better, because it just squelches you. It keeps you docile and weak, right? It tells your men not to fight. It tells your women to become the men. So that's why the Most High had to raise up the I.S.U.P.K. to teach women how to be women again, man. They're not soft and gentle no more. They want to fight you. Like you go do something like, you bump into a woman by accident, she ready to fight you more than the dude is, man. She ready to throw hands at you. So that's why we had to come out and teach people how to actually behave, like how you're supposed to, love each other and all this, right? So let's get into the topic. The topic is Black Wall Street, okay? Black Wall Street, for anybody that doesn't know, was a successful part of town. It was about 40 blocks in the north side of Tulsa, Oklahoma. So now there was Black Wall Streets all over the country, but this was just the most prosperous one, okay? So basically, a man that had some money, basically, and this shows you what, if we had good leadership, what can happen. It was a man that had some money. He went and bought a section of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and he said, this is going to be designated for black people. Why ain't Michael Jordan doing that? You get what I'm saying? Why Oprah Winfrey, she building schools in stinking butt Africa. But between her, well, who? Just some names, some people. Michael Jordan, Jay-Z, all these people, they have money, and they're just celebrities that have money. There's a bunch of black people that have money that you don't even know their name. Why don't they go and do something like this? They can do it, without even, thinking about it. But it's because they don't care about the success of black people. they don't care about black people becoming successful, right? So that's the whole thing. They care about themselves being successful. They're the same thing as a Christian pastor. They don't care about black people doing good. They just want to do good, and they use you. You're like they're the king, right? And they use you as pawns. So it's like a chess game. They use you to do their bidding for them. So like I think of it as too as like you're like, you ever follow somebody, like people follow somebody that's like high notoriety and like Instagram or Facebook, and you get a bunch of followers. Now you can monetize those followers, right? That's the same way that Christian pastors do, because when they have a following of people that listen to them, to me they were the social media before Facebook, and some people might know of MySpace. A little bit older people may know about MySpace, right? So they were the social media before those things, and they were the social media influencers. They influenced people to do whatever the government wanted. Okay, so let's get into this. All right, now here's how it all started. Because does anybody know how black people got to Tulsa, Oklahoma in the first place? Can anybody know?
Well, my concern if I may.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was concerned if I may. The day as you came, the original Wall Street was in Durham, North Carolina. It was Mr. Charles' company, North Carolina Mutual Company, and also they came through with Mr. O.W. Gurney, and they purchased the land. It was from the Canaanites, Native American Indians, had a little coalition, and they started that way, trying to avoid, the oppressor, because the oppressor were working. The oppressor is them about to speak to them.
Okay, you're right, but you're right what you're saying, but that wasn't what I was trying to bring out. What I was trying to say is, because, has anybody ever been to Oklahoma before? Right? Oklahoma, I know Mashallah, he said he's from Tulsa, right? Explain how Tulsa is. What is the landscape of Tulsa or Oklahoma, for instance?
It's a flat land. There's a lot of farming and country down there, but it's pretty much flat land.
Nothing is there, right? It's like the little house on the prairie. Right? It's like that.
Small shotgun houses. Small shotgun houses everywhere. In the front door, out the back doors, just small houses.
A very small house. They have farming. It's not so much as like, they do have crops, but it's not a large crop place. They do more of the farming there is cattle, more so. Am I right? Mashallah. You from the? Okay, am I right? I just drove through. I didn't stay there.
Yeah, come on, sir. There's a lot of cattle and horses, and like you said, you don't see a whole lot of like crops. It's more your cattle and your beef and stuff like that.
Okay. So there's more cattle there. So it's like that's where you get a lot of the beef, the chicken, a lot of that. Like that in Arkansas, they do a lot of chicken and beef over there because you can't grow anything there. It's dry. It's cold as hell. When it's wintertime, it's cold as hell in Oklahoma. And there's not much nutrients there. There's not much there. The only thing the whole thing that happened, here's what really happened in Oklahoma. Here's what really happened. There was the question, the answer I was looking for was the black people and the Native American people, because it wasn't just black people in Black Wall Street. There was Native Americans, the Seminoles, all of them. What's his name? Jackson, the President Jackson, when he wanted the Indian Removal Act, he removed the Indians and they had to go walk what's called a Trail of Tears. And they had to walk all the way to Tulsa, go all the way to Oklahoma. They were removing them, right? But then the thing they didn't realize is because, this is like the 1800s, so early 1800s when they did this. So oil wasn't that big of a thing. Now, as oil starts becoming popular, they find out oil is in Oklahoma, right? So then when black people got over there, you know, people started getting into oil and start doing stuff like that. Black people, we were able, so it actually helped us in a way, because when we got over to Oklahoma, there was a booming industry because of the oil. So what black people would do is they would get, you know, they would go work in the white side of town and then take the money over to the black side, which is what black people should do today. They would take their money to the black side, and then they started building up businesses and all of that. So then as they built up the businesses, like they said, the money could circulate for a year and a half. $1 could circulate a year and a half before it leaves the black community. Today, a dollar is out of there in six hours. And not just we in the digital age, it's probably 6 minutes. You know what I'm saying? So they had everything. They had restaurants. They had, of course, you know, barbershops, hair salons. Of course, they had that. They had doctor's offices. They had an airport. I think, too, they had bus terminals. They had taxi cab services. Everything a city needs, right? They had all of these things. So when you had to take a cab, like this was where lots of black people owned cars, which was something new. A lot of black people own cars in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Right? A lot of black people own cars. We own theaters. We own, just name it, whatever you can think of that you go out and see, gas stations. All of this we own. It wasn't Habib in the gas station in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Go ahead.
All in that, you know, the Black Wall Street community, they had hospitals, lawyers' offices.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you said, they had convenience stores, you know, barbershop. Like they didn't have to go outside of the community for anything. Everything was there. Like how we got to go, you know, to the grocery store and get meat, or go to the farmer's market. That was all in Black Wall Street.
All of it. Everything was there. I think even the power company, all of that, gas, water, all of that was owned by black people. So there was nothing they had to go to that community for. So has anybody heard of the what's the name of that movie that they came out with back in like the 1900s, early 1910?
Sir, if I may.
Go ahead.
That's Birth of a Nation.
Birth of a Nation, that's the name of it. Anybody heard of Birth of a Nation? Okay, if anybody, you heard of that too, sis?
Yes,
okay, but
I taught in college. They thought you were in college.
good night. So, if you could, sis, just tell a little bit for people that may not know. I never seen I just seen parts of it. What does that movie kind of tell you about when you seen the movie?
So like the third actually shows you they're like in blackface.
Mm-hmm.
White people in blackface.
Yep.
And they're kind of like just showing you how they kidnap and slaughter. I guess you would say black people. I guess the slaughtering of it, but they're like KKKs in a sense. They're on horses and they're in blackface.
Good. What I've heard too, I haven't seen the whole thing myself. They show black men as having this unsatiable lust for white women. So, whenever, go ahead.
They do.
Okay, that's one of the big things they push. That black men, they like your sister was saying, they had white men in blackface having this just insatiable lust for white women, right? Which, let's be honest, most black men don't have that. There is some, don't get it twisted, but that's not like that. You know what I'm saying? The people that got an insatiable lust is white men for anything, right? He has an insatiable lust for power. I think he got an insatiable lust for little boys. Anything wicked, he has an insatiable lust for, right? So, but they try to put that on black people. But But what they ended up doing was, like, you gotta think, this is 1921 when this massacre happened, right? 1919, that summer was called the Red Summer. You might have heard of that before, the Red Summer? The Red Summer was, it was from that movie, helped perpetrate to show that about the lust or whatever. They try to say that black men had a lust for white women. So what ended up happening is they started when they had the movies and everything, they showing the movies, and now they got this lust for white women, right? So now whenever like anything happened, they was trying to say, like, I'm talking about, you know, a boy, they said a white woman could say he whistled at me, they kill him. Anybody black. Anytime, you know, you had any type of encounter with somebody white, they basically was, you know, coming lynching. Lynch mobs was coming. They called it the Red Summer because they pretty much in every city all across America, they were killing black people and buried them in mass graves. That's why they called it the Red Summer of 1919. Give me 1 second. So that's why they called it the Red Summer of 1919. And this is, because when this happened, when they showed that movie, like, you know how when like the Twin Towers fell, everybody started signing up for the military? They start showing all the patriotic movies. When that movie came out, those same people were signing up for the KKK. Because they trying to, you know, in their mind, save they women, right? Okay, so that's how that pretty much worked, all right? So I ain't trying to bore y'all too much. You want to watch a little bit of this? It's like just like when we was in school and they used to roll out the TV. Yeah, they don't know about that, right? That was the best day. They used to roll out the TV. You be like, yes, shut up, teacher. We ain't got to hear you. But all right, now I'm playing. But all right, let's watch a little bit of this. See if I can pull it up. These scrolls out the way.
Reach across time and see yourself. There was one called Reach on history.
Okay. So,
In the early 20th century,
can I hear on the conference call?
a class community called Greenwood thrived in Tulsa, Oklahoma, despite segregation and Jim Crow laws.
Booker T. Washington declared Greenwood as a Negro Wall Street of America.
But all of Greenwood's achievements and successes were destroyed during a night of murder and mayhem.
It was never in the history books or anything, and yet it was the biggest riot we've ever had in America.
As we go in search of history, we'll uncover a little-known event that was one of the worst racial riots in American history, the night Tulsa burned. (1921). The Greenwood section of Tulsa, Oklahoma is the center of African-American life for the more than 11,000 black residents of the city. Within this community lie 108 black-owned businesses, 2 theaters, 2 black schools, and 15 doctor's offices. In fact, Greenwood is nationally recognized.
Booker T. Washington, who came through here en route to Muskogee, when he saw the glitter and glamour and the bustling businesses, he declared Greenwood as a Negro Wall Street of America. And since the Civil Rights Movement updated it to the Black Wall Street of America.
Barred from shopping and socializing elsewhere in Tulsa, blacks built a place of their own, Greenwood.
we had everything out on.
See, they was barred from everything, because this is the time that, you know, you might not learn this in school, but there was times that it was like a water fountain, for instance. It said colored on, it said only, you know, white only water fountains. They had businesses that was only for white people, like they would not let black people in, right? And if you ever try to walk in, they can take that as a right to lynch you, and they don't get in trouble for it, right? They don't go to jail, they don't go to prison. They'll just kill you and go home, right? But let you get accused of doing something, they're going to try to, you know, they'll lynch your whole family and do whatever. Like it's been times they have taken women that were pregnant and cut the baby out of her stomach while she was hung in the air and let the baby fall out, right? So, and that's why David even said, I can't wait till I bash their baby heads on the stone. Because people think that this is something new. They've always been like this, right? They've been like this. You gotta think back in Moses, when we were coming from Egypt, they was killing our young. When we were traveling out of Egypt to go into Israel, and we were just trying to go through, trying to pass, they didn't want us to come past, but when we had to, they was coming and killing the older people, the women, the children, and all of this. That's why God wanted us to go to that city and kill all of them. Kill all of them Edomites. That's why he wanted to do it, because he know the barbarism that they are. They're evil like that, right?
In the Negro area that you needed, there were drugstores, grocery stores, cleaners, hotels. All of that bush was destroyed when the riot came.
Oh yeah, and it's important.
On May 31st.
They call it a riot. If you know, they call it a riot. Does anybody know why they call it a riot? They didn't call it a massacre because murder, there's two reasons. Murder, if you kill somebody 50 years ago, what would happen to you if they found out about it? Well, yeah. Exactly, you'll go to jail. What is that called? Like, but then, let's say if you did a riot 50 years ago, would they put you in jail for it? Exactly, they will put you in jail, right? What do they call that? Like the legal term.
Statute of limitations.
There you go, sis. It's statute of limitations. So it's no statute of limitations on a riot, but it's statute of limitations on murder. So it's a way to stay in their laws, but still not be in their laws. You know what I'm saying? Another thing too is the insurance policies. If they say it was a riot, they don't have to pay the insurance when all of this happened. If it was a destruction or organized racial destruction, the state has to pay something. Somebody got to pay something. But they say it was a riot like it was white against black, which it wasn't. It was white people killing black people. Go ahead, Azan. Azan? He hasn't changed his mind. Alright, so that's why they did it. That's why they, like, if you notice, just be careful. Like, you notice they name things a certain way. That's why they do that.
In what has been described as the worst race riot in American history, Greenwood is destroyed. In less than 24 hours, a white mob reduces Black Wall Street to 36 square blocks of smoldering rubble. Scores of African Americans are killed and thousands are left homeless.
The white Tulsans not only invaded Black Tulsa, they not only looted homes and businesses, they burned it to the ground. The entire black community, aside from...
They want to call us looters, right? They literally looted the whole place. Does anybody know why they looted the black people place? Why they looted this spot? Why did they loot us? Go ahead, Azar, then I'll let the sister go.
That's kind of concerned about me. You know, they want to stop us from, they want to stop our progression. You know, we have more money, more cars, more homes, more prosperity for them because they was going through the Great Depression and they want to take one of our money. So we won't even have a chance to come back. So like,
God, it's deeper than that. Go ahead, sis.
I'd say out of jealousy. It was a lot of jealousy. It was about bankrupting us, but it was out of jealousy.
God, you,
They wanted to.
God, you
There's
said,
a lot of them police officers after that. Or like overseers, like police officers. So I think it was more.
so like, yeah, I want.
all right, go ahead.
I would say because the white person, he couldn't break into that economy. Like, yeah, they ousted people in Tulsa where they couldn't. They had to make a community and have their own kind of like economic system. And they were jealous that they were just out of slavery a couple years, so to speak, and they were flourishing way more than the dirty oppressors was in Tulsa. So they just wanted to destroy because they didn't want that they was flourishing.
Come. All right, I'll get into this a little bit deeper than that. Let's go to, let me see if I can get to it. Let's go to the book of Genesis real quick. Go to okay, go to chapter 27. Go ahead. What's up with that? Okay. Okay. Go to 27 and 32. All right, just to give you a little bit of backstory. Esau and Jacob were brothers, right? Esau sold his birthright, but then when Jacob came to claim it, because everybody know the story. It's like I'll do it quickly if anybody doesn't know. Isaac's wife, I think it's Rebecca. She had the Most High told her that the chosen lineage, of course, was going to be through her second-born son, not the first, because in most cultures, the firstborn is the one that gets the inheritance. So she told Jacob, because Isaac was about to give the blessing to Esau. Well, she knew that Esau was not of her people. That's a different nation that was coming out of her womb, which the Most High told her. So he said, put some, hair on your arms. You look like a Caucasian man if they don't shave. Do all of this stuff and make yourself like a Caucasian man, because their father was blind. So he would just, touch him and say, okay, he'll feel all of the fur on him, and he'll think that it's his son Esau. So this is what happened. All right, read that 32. Now this is after Jacob tricked them and got the blessing. And that's what Esau, when he came to get his blessing, because when you're about to die, that's what they usually do. When the father's getting ready to die. Go ahead. 27 to 32. I'll take one of the conference
Come
calls.
on, sir.
You go ahead.
Come on, the book of Genesis chapter 27 and verse 32. And Isaac his father said unto him, Who art thou? Who art thou? And he said, I am thy son, thy firstborn Esau. Verse 33. And Isaac trembled very exceedingly, and said, Who? Where is he that hath taken venison and brought it me? And I have eaten of all before thou camest.
So he said, who brought this to me? You know, I've eaten all this venison, but the person that whoever came here before gave me this venison, and I ate it all before you got here. Keep going.
And I have eaten of all before thou camest, and have blessed him. Yeah, and he shall be blessed.
So he blessed Jacob instead of Esau, right? Keep going.
Verse 34. And when Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with a great and exceeding bitter cry.
So he cried like a damn baby. That's what he did. He cried like a baby. That's the same spirit of Esau coming and killing the brothers, that even after going through all of the hell that they went through slavery, right? They went through slavery. They went through try not to cuss, they went through high interest rates because they charged us double and triple the amount of interest for loans to get the house that they got during this time. They had to rebuild. Now, don't get me wrong, burn the damn church down, but just to show you that white people, they burned the church down 2 to 3 times before that, and every time they got the money, then built it back up. Just to show you, even though they were in Christianity, they were together, right? They did that like 2 or 3 times before this even happened. They came, like that should show you that they don't even believe in their own damn God. They go down and they go down and burn the church down, right? So that's why they were doing it, because they are crybabies. That's the big thing, and they look at you like you the slave. So how dare the slave have what I don't have? Y'all also seen that scripture where it says that he seen the servants on horses and the slaves walking next to him. There's a scripture. What is it?
Ecclesiastes 10:7.
10:7. Can somebody pull that for me real quick? Somebody else, because I want you to read a little bit more on Genesis. Go ahead.
What was the verse again?
Ecclesiastes 10:7.
Okay.
You got that for me? All right, go ahead and read it.
Ecclesiastes 10:7. I have seen servants upon horses and princes walking as servants upon the earth.
Because back in this time, like if you the prince, you walk, you sit on the horse. The servants got to walk, right? But he's seen the princes walking like they were servants, and the servants on top of horses. So that's what they look at you as. You're the servant. You're supposed to be like, you're like an animal. You're like a dog to them. So they're looking at you like, how dare my property owns, is doing better than me, right? That's why, this is after World War I, right? It's after World War I. They went off to military. Black people went and fought in their military, right? Fought against them, and they're thinking that because we did, they fought in the military, that they was going to be received. But the whole time, they thought it was going to be received by Caucasians. Well, that's what they thought. But the whole time, what they were thinking? Well, this job I used to work, now you came back, you took my job. crybabies. They don't have honor, integrity. They find a reason to cry. Just like Esau did. He sold it. You know why black people went to fight in the war? Because white people didn't want to. Y'all get that? They didn't want to. Why would you go fight in the war when you can own property here? Black people went to the war so that they can get prestige. And then, you know, they didn't have jobs. Like, I mean, some had jobs, but it was like another job that they can do. They were doing it for ambition purposes, right? They didn't need to do it and fight in the war because they already had their father's businesses. They had wealth. You got to remember, they was giving land away. In the 1700s, the 1800s, they just, you get 50 acres, you get 50 acres, you get 50. They was just giving it out. So they had wealth. They had money. Right? Black people was doing this to try to, you know, just like why do black people go to the military now? Get college education. They don't do it because they want to be in the military. When white people go to the military, they go because they want to fight. They want to kill people, right? They want to kill people and get away with it. That's why they go to the military. Black people go because, you know, they trying to get a college education. Because otherwise they ain't getting no college education. They want to go somewhere that they can live because they can live on base. They can live in the barracks. And they ain't got to worry about rent. That's why they go. They don't go. Everybody, well, you know, everybody say, well, what's the car everybody drove that it was in the military? A Dodge Charger, right? Everybody went to the military to get that Dodge Charger, right? So that's why people go. People don't go to the military just to, you know, to go fight. They don't want to go there. Why they want to go fight against Osama bin Laden? He ain't did nothing to you. Right? All right, go back to 27, Genesis 27 for me. Go ahead.
Genesis 27 and 27?
No, go to, what's this? Yeah, you was at 34 somewhere. Go ahead.
I'm still holding that verse for you, Yahanna.
Go ahead, you can read it.
The book of Genesis, chapter 27 and verse 34.
Mm-hmm.
And when Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with a great and exceeding bitter cry, and said unto his father, Bless me, even me also, O my father.
And but you know, before that, he said he hated his birthright. You know why he hated his birthright? Because he hated black people. It's a black man giving him a birthright. He don't like black people. Right? Just like it's the same spirit of Esau. It's the same spirit right now. He does not like black people. He feels like he should be the one ruling. Like all of the stuff that Isaac had, he felt like that should be all his at all times. The whole earth is his. All right? So he took away his blessing. He gave his blessing went to Jacob, right? Now go to drop down, go to go to 38.
The book of Genesis, chapter 27 and verse 38. And Esau said unto his father, Hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept.
He's still crying. He's still groveling like a little baby, right? He's supposed to be a grown man. He's still groveling right now about a blessing that he sold that he said he hated. He said he despised his birthright. You go up a little bit higher, he said he despised it. So now he crying like a little baby. Right, keep going.
Verse 39. And Isaac, his father, answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and of the dew of heaven from above.
So his dwelling should be the fatness of the earth. You gonna get, I'm trying to think how that was broke down to me. It's like he's breaking it down like he's getting the fatness. He gets like kind of like the extra that's on the earth, right? He gets that. Keep going.
Verse 40. And by thy sword shalt thou live.
So and by the sword you shall live. You're gonna fight. You're gonna be fighting to live. That's how you're gonna live, by the sword, right? And that's how he lives everywhere he goes. He's fighting everywhere to live. He's killing people to get anything he wants. Right? Keep going.
And shalt serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. So
then it's gonna be a time he gonna break that yoke off his neck, because he's supposed to be our servant. This the time when he broke the yoke from off his neck. Because we was holding Esau from, like, Esau's been trying to rule the world since the time of the Greeks, but we wouldn't let him. Right? There was times he was trying to rule. We started getting in power. We kept Esau at bay, but now he's ruling the world. He's broke off the yoke off his. We had a yoke on him to keep him from growing too big. Right? And now look at him. He fully grown. Now he finally able to realize what, he wanted to have. Now he owns everything. And guess what? He still wants more. Still wants more. And you see that even though he owns, he's living on, they're living on stolen land that they didn't took from people, and they still come in and want more. They want the pianos. There was pianos that black people had that was like fancy pianos that they had. They wanted the pianos, man. They wanted the china cabinets. Your parents had china cabinets. They want that, right? They the real looters, because what it say in Obadiah? He said a grape gatherers came to thee. When they had leave some grapes, Esau, they don't leave nothing. Right? They did whatever they didn't take, they destroyed. They don't want you to have anything because they live off the fatness of the earth. Right? Alright. Let's get back to just a little bit.
A few outlying areas was absolutely lit to the torch.
The devastation of this community means much more than the destruction of its buildings. The residents, the men, women, and children who struggled to create this haven, will be forever scarred.
I remember the race ride and how mean people were during the race ride, and the relationship between white and black at that time. And I wondered how people could be so mean.
He said he wondered how they could be so damn mean. It's evil.
Because of its history, Oklahoma would seem to be one of the last places where such a terrible incident could happen. Beginning in the 1830s, Oklahoma became the home of many minority groups unwanted by the rest of America, a promised land.
The lure of Oklahoma in the late 1800s, even the early 1900s, was clearly a better life for African Americans. There was an abundance of land. Everything was new, especially when we talk about pre-statehood.
Before becoming a state, Oklahoma was part of America's frontier.
Throughout the 18th and the 19th century, with all the settlements along the eastern seaboard, the American frontier kept pushing further and further west. And ultimately it ran into some large, well-organized native groups, the Cherokees, the Creeks, the Seminoles, and others.
Wanting the expansion and development of North America to continue unabated, the U.S. government began the forced migration of these Native American groups from the southeastern United States to the newly created Indian Territory, which included most of present-day Oklahoma. This migration took place along the infamous Trail of Tears, an arduous, often deadly journey covering thousands of miles. Accompanying the Native Americans on this journey were many African Americans. Most of them were slaves owned by the Indian tribes.
The Native American peoples we were talking about came from the southeastern part of the United States, and they
Don't believe that. That's a lie. They were not owned. Indians, by large, did not own any slaves. It was just a handful of Indians, and most of them were really white people that had a Indian grandmother or something. All right, they did not own slaves, so that's a lie that they always try to make a lie so they can make it so that we hate each other more. Because now what they try to do is, you see how we showing what white people did? Now they trying to turn it, well, it ain't just all us. Some of the Indians, they was owning you with slaves, right? But, you gotta think about it. A lot of times, even when ownership of slaves, it was to set you free. A lot of times they would buy a slave, right, and then set so you can be free. That's why I say a lot of times when black people own slaves, they say, well, you was a slave owner black person, right? A lot of times they didn't own black slaves to be a slave master. They did it so they can, it was their cousins, their brothers. They would buy them so they can, they can be free again. They have to be a slave. So don't let all of this stuff, get perpetrated, because they always try to make themselves like how little kids do. It wasn't just me, it was him. They blame somebody else, right? We do that every day, right? Blame it on the other. They blame it on somebody else's other brother.
had 200 years of exposure to plantation society, and many of them were plantation owners themselves, and they brought their slaves with them when they came to Oklahoma.
The end of the Civil War would bring freedom to these slaves. It would also see the beginning of the end of Native American dominance in these new lands.
At the end of the Civil War, because the Native American tribes were primarily supporters of the Confederacy, as a form of punishment, let's say, the Indian Territory was divided into half, and so we wound up with what was famously known as the Twin Territories of Oklahoma Territory and Indian Territory.
Responding to pressure from white settlers, President Benjamin Harrison opened the Oklahoma Territory to new settlement on April 22, 1889. With this proclamation, the first race was on to stake claims for homesteads on the new frontier. Within 24 hours, 2 million acres were claimed by 50,000 settlers. Among these settlers were blacks, searching for a place where freedom might be more than just a piece of paper.
My grandfather was in the Oklahoma land run. His name was David Monroe.
My grandfather moved from Dalton, Missouri, looking for a better life. 3 covered wagons. That's why he moved there.
From the beginning of Oklahoma history, modern Oklahoma history, African Americans have always been a part of it. They were cowboys, they were cattle punchers, they were farmers. They helped build the railroad, they helped build all the cities.
By the end of 1890, the black population in the Oklahoma region stood at about 3,000. By 1900, the figure had grown to more than 55,000.
Oklahoma was such a place of promise for some African Americans that some even decided to try and see if they could turn Indian Territory into the nation's first and only all-black state. One of these visionaries was a man named Edwin McCabe, who had been the former state auditor of Kansas.
Edwin McCabe moved to Oklahoma in 1889 and founded the town of Langston. While McCabe's dream of an all-black state was not achieved, the calls to come to Oklahoma were heeded by many African Americans. As a result, 27 all-black towns were created in Oklahoma during the years leading up to statehood.
When Oklahoma became a state in 1907, there was great rejoicing throughout the state and through the territory, and amongst black Oklahomans as well. But very soon, the racial climate started to change.
After the Constitutional Congress, after state was approved, the first bill segregated the state.
Y'all see that? So the first bill segregated everybody.
Blacks remained in Oklahoma, living in both all black towns and Oklahoma cities. One of those cities was Tulsa.
Go ahead.
I didn't catch, did they say Langston was a white man, or was he a black?
Not that he was a black man.
Oh, so I kind of know the end. I thought I heard some different stuff.
I know, it's a while. See, like, we started getting places in power in different places, so. There was also, I might do one that was on Wilmington, North Carolina. That was another black Wall Street as well. We owned a whole lot, and guess what they did? Came in and killed everybody. Same story. It's just, this one was like one of the worst massacres, and it destroyed so much wealth that we had. It just destroyed so much. I mean, Rosewood is another one. They just came into the town because of Rosewood. It was some white woman sleeping. She was committing adultery on her husband. So when her husband caught her, you know, somewhat, I guess, in the act, she blamed it on a black man, and they went and destroyed the whole damn town because of that. So, and tell you the truth, it never happened. She was just being a hoe. With all the white women is anyway as whores, so that's all they were doing. They went and destroyed, or they killed probably dozens of black people in that little small town.
Though begun in the 1830s as a Creek Indian village, Tulsa would remain a sleepy frontier town for decades. Not until 1882, with the arrival of the railroad, would whites live there in large numbers.
Gentrification right there.
What truly spurred on the city's dynamic growth was the discovery of the Ida Glen oil range in 1905.
That's when oil starts becoming a big
Once
thing.
oil was discovered, Tulsa absolutely skyrocketed. There were 1,000 people here in 1900. In 1910, there were 10,000. In 1920, there were 100,000 people here. Boosters called it the Magic City because it just showed up overnight.
The forest of derricks that sprang up was
producing
more than 2,000 barrels of oil per day.
That's why they call it an Indian reservation. They keep it there in case they ever need it. That's what a reserve is, right? It's a reservation. They kicked all of, you gotta think, because Florida, they grow a lot of crops in Florida, right? So they got rid of them so they could have the crops in Florida. They're like, oh crap, it's oil down there. So they wanted to get rich. So now they all came moving in. So now it's just like, so now it's gentrification. All of a sudden, Starbucks start popping up everywhere. When it was all black and Indians, right? Starbucks, Whole Foods came. You know what I'm saying? You start seeing them weird shaped condos. Just like you see now, what's happening here in Glenwood Road down the street, or Memorial. You start seeing them little weird shaped condos coming in, Starbucks popping up everywhere.
It's like it.
Go ahead, sir.
You know they got Black Wall Street in Georgia?
I think it's Stonecrest, isn't it?
What it is, but it's
It's
a so-called Black Wall Street.
I think it's Stonecrest, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is Stonecrest.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm still learning Georgia.
Yeah, but they came and they trying to basically, whenever they see there's something black, they want to start coming in and taking it now. So that's what they're doing now. They wanted to get out of the city. It was called the white flight, right? Everybody moved to the suburbs, right? And then, you know, now they want the city back. So now they coming, making the cost of living so damn high, you can't afford it. So now they moving all of us out, and they trying to come in with they cave condos they moving into.
it was admitted to the Union in 1907, Oklahoma led the nation in oil production. The wealth oil generated went mainly to the whites who owned the oil wells. But blacks also benefited as the money trickled down.
As Tulsa boomed, Black Tulsa boomed too. But the city, like the rest of the state, was also under Jim Crow laws, segregation laws. So while black people could work in jobs throughout town,
which is funny because they was there first,
nor could they shop anywhere. So as a result, a number of enterprising young black entrepreneurs started to create a business district.
In 1905,
I think they had pictures of them, right?
Gets its first business. A group.
These brothers were sharp in the world, right? They sharp. I appreciate it. They sharp. They got the fresh suits on, looking clean. Everything that white America tells you black men should be, right? Still wasn't good enough. We took on a full culture. We celebrating birthdays. We got a church. All of this stuff. We getting into the capitalism. We fully invested into the whole country, into the whole they doctrine. We just fully embracing it. Still came and killed us.
Store on the corner of Greenwood Avenue and Archer Street. From this humble start, Greenwood soon flourishes into the vital, exciting center of African American life in Tulsa. By 1921, it is a place of limitless opportunities, both economic and social.
At that time, Greenwood had business.
Hey.
We had the Dreamland Theater, we had drugstores, we had dance halls, pool rooms, shine parlors. That's where everybody just hung out.
People would go down one side of Greenwood and up the other. You could see the fashions and all of that.
During this era, Tulsa is essentially two cities, the black North End and the white South End.
And that was segregation days, you know. So we didn't go very far to the south. We just worked over there, that's about all.
The black people couldn't get anything in Tulsa, downtown. They couldn't go to the restroom, they couldn't eat. It was entirely segregated.
But far from stifling African American economic success, this segregation helps Greenwood grow.
I think the success.
So we did good in segregation.
Has to do with simple economic principles of supply and demand. There's a demand for goods. One cannot purchase those goods in the larger context of the white community. So there's a need for black individuals to produce and to supply those goods.
Despite the success blacks have in creating their own community, Tulsa is still.
Like it's crazy because you know me being from Tulsa and you know just new information, but just me being there, living there, like the city is still segregated like that. So you got the white trailer park trash on the west side. You got the predominantly white people that's doing well, they out south or whatever. You got the Latinos and Mexicans on the east side, and then it's still, you know, Negroes out north. Like it's still segregated exactly like that, and they won't. They know that, but they won't move into them others. Like you'll have a few people do it, but these are predominantly like they black, they trailer park trash on this end. And Mexicans on it, and nobody really ventures over to them sides.
You right.
It's crazy to say, it's segregated like that.
You're absolutely right.
And another thing that was crazy that I just heard, I think Officer Kanye, he brought it to my attention. It was like Gap Band, the group Gap Band, like the acronym GAP is Greenwood, Archer, and Pine. Right? And they had this song that you dropped the bomb on. You talk about the city. Like not even
I think I did hear that.
Yeah,
that sounds familiar. That sounds very familiar. I think I remember hearing about that one time. Yep, I think I remember hearing about that. Yeah.
Like, I just don't put it in the song because I didn't really know about it until I left the city. And I had like an aide that showed me a documentary of what happened in Tulsa. I'm like,
yeah, because they hide it.
It was just a big cover up.
They hide it in Tulsa. It's hidden. It's hidden knowledge. Like, what's sad is you can go there. But did you know it was a whole, like a memorial for that, right? That's there. Did you know it was a memorial there?
The one that they just put there?
I think it was one they just put there.
Like the whole Greenwood, Archer and Pine, like they built a highway system. Like you don't even, like if you didn't know, you never knew that was there. But if you look at the old Greenwood, you'll see the church that has always been there. That church still stands to this day. But they done built a whole, like,
that should have been the first place they built. They burned down.
Or something like that.
Yeah, the church should have been the first thing they burned down. That should have been it. Stop right there.
Right.
Because the church, because if you notice something, that's the thing that's so evil about Christian pastors. What's the only thing that survived in the Tulsa? The damn church.
The church. And that big ass cross, that big like, it's crazy. It's crazy.
That's the only thing that survived. All the people they had, most of them left and never came back to Tulsa. Most of the people that survived never came back. All of the men that were there, they killed them. Right? Killed a lot of the men. They put a lot of them. They put them in. One second, I'll repeat. They put a lot of them in encampments. Right? And then the men couldn't even defend their own family and their businesses. So their wives and children was left to fend for themselves. Man. They was deputizing white people on, coming in. You get a gun. It was like the Oprah Winfrey show, and they just giving out badges, letting people go. You basically had a license to go kill people. Which is, of course, what do KKK want to do? Just kill black people without going to jail. Go ahead.
So like the other one. It's a little piece of history that I think like some people don't know, because when them white folks came into that black community, the black folks defended it. Like they were kicking their ass. They were fighting back. But they had to drop a bomb on them because they was taking care of they was handling.
Yeah, they did like this whole, it was systematically done. Hopefully we can get to that point in the video. If we can't do it, and I'll just explain it to you. But it was systematic. It wasn't just like white people, we gonna get on horses and just go charge. No. It was done, it was licensed by the state. The media was involved. The media riled everybody up. All this, the newspapers did it. And so it was already tension between white and black people. So as soon as something was sparked it, which was the brother that they say he probably tripped and landed on the white girl or whatever in the elevator. It could have been anything, man. It could have been whatever. It didn't have to be that. It could have just been, he looked at the white woman too hard, or he looked at her. She had a booger up her nose. He looked. Why you look at her like that? And they went to go kill people. It could have been anything. It was already tension. It's like when two gangs are mad at each other, and you step on a person's shoe, everybody's shooting. It already was tension. So that was just what ended up happening. Somebody said Salakia.
I don't consider Salakia by me.
Go ahead.
I don't consider. I just want to say this real heavy point. I thought a trooper brought out. It's real heavy. I think I saw a similar documentary about the Gap Band. They were talking about how they got named, and it was Charlie Wilson, and he was talking about how it was a terrifying thing. Nobody talks about it, and you want to keep it alive by naming it Georgia, the Greenwood Orchard Pine. And he talked about dropping a bomb on me. People think it's like, the shorty is fine and, she fell in love with, but it's actually the actual bomb, right? And he was so destroyed the way, and Malcolm, he wore like shirts and, like he drink games, but he's naked. And he was destroyed. And he talked about how he loved white people, and, he's something Christian. And come to find out, I do some research, he married a doctor. You know what I mean? And so it's just so destroyed. What the presidential is destroyed so much. He trying to be like them, and he trying to sing like them. He trying to be an R&B. He trying to be like rock and roll, dressing like them, and you know what I mean? The president does a lot of work.
God, you're absolutely right. So, absolutely right. You're right. I'm looking up at the Gap Band right now, and they named themselves after Greenwood, Archer, and Pine. It was right. In Tulsa, Oklahoma. Just shows you just how, man, just how evil like all of this was, man. It just was destruction, like what they wanted against black people. Go ahead.
If I may, I was just like to add to the point that you're making right there, every topic that you're bringing out, you know what I'm saying? It's evil what the oppressor, you know what I'm saying, did during that time span of, you know what I'm saying, killing our brothers and sisters in Tulsa, Oklahoma. But what's even more evil is that you have men like, Louis Farrakhan, Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, Warnock, the rest of these black up and preachers and all that, they got this platform where they can, establish another black Wall Street centralized in one location. But because of their greed, you know what I'm saying, they know different than the oppressor, you know what I'm saying, that the Bible speaks of, devil that the Bible speaks of, because they're not putting our people in a position to even rebuild, you know what I'm saying. We always going to the oppressor saying, you owe us this, what you did. Damn that we are the economy of America. So whatever we set our mind to do, we can do it. And I was listening to that documentary clip that you were playing, and it was saying how it was like a magic city, how it popped up overnight. So it only takes, you know what I'm saying, the leadership, so-called leadership of black America to just stand up and say, look, we're going to put all our eggs in this one city. We're going to build up our own everything and bring back Black Wall Street, so to speak, and, build our own, you know what I'm saying, metroplex, our own Senate center, our own metropolitan, where we can go and, be ourselves and be free to, serve the God that, that the Bible asks us to serve, you know what I'm saying, the most high power of Israel. But because they're selfish, they will never do that. Wow.
That's absolutely right. They're selfish. But then you understand, like, what this does to people. Like, everybody's heard of PTSD, right? PTSD, they found that it can transfer in DNA, right? It can transfer from child to child, PTSD can. The trauma that you had. I remember I watched a movie one time, it just always stuck with me. He said that it was like a slave movie. This devil said about a horse. He said, you don't try to, domesticate the male horse. You domesticate the female horse, and she will train all of her children to follow from generation to generation. And that's literally what they've done. They've taken a man out, killed him, gotten rid of him, locked him up, and then trained the women to raise up even more weak men, because they don't have men that want to fight. You know what I'm saying? Women, like, it's nothing against women. Women are powerful in their ways, but they're not meant to fight. They're not meant to be out in the battlefield. They're supposed to preserve things. What men do, we go out and, conquer. They preserve what we conquer. Women preserve what we conquer. They're not meant to be out there fighting on front lines. And the oppressor knows this. That's why he protects his women, but he wants us all the time. He wants, if you notice how, like, subtle they are, they're always pushing our sisters to don't be with your man. Leave him. Do what you want to do. But then they protect their women. If something comes against their women, they ready to go to blows. They ready to kill you. Like I seen that. Y'all seen that? They was at the like a football game or whatever. This woman stood up in the black man's face, started pushing and slapping on him. As soon as he raised his head, 30 white people stood up. Right? But if it was a black woman, it wouldn't have been. They want her to fight. They think of black women as men. Like it's even so bad that in the hospital they don't even give black women as much morphine when you're having children. They think you a tank, you can take it, right? So that's how they think of our women, that y'all is basically men, that y'all animals, man. So, and that's just propagated everything that they do. That's why they want to get rid of the men. They don't want the men to be out there fighting. That's what happened even here. I'm trying to see maybe we get into it, but basically all of the men, when hopefully we can get to that point, but when the boy basically, because it was segregated, it was only certain places that he can go, people can go use the bathroom at. One of them was called the Drexel building, right? So he just wanted to go, use the bathroom. It was an elevator lady there. So supposedly he just tripped, because these elevators aren't like now, like where they're kind of level. These elevators were like operated by a person, so it might have been up like this. And we know anything could have happened, and he tripped, and he could have just landed on her. And then when she started screaming, he took, like anything, he's 19 years old. He took off running. And then they started, trying to lynch him. They started saying it's going to be, the newspaper started printing out saying it's going, pushing people to do a lynching. And now they've hidden even the newspaper articles. Or the newspaper article that had that part in there, that, because eventually all old news articles, they start putting them digitally, right? When they went to go find that news article to put it digital, they see where it was cut out. So they purposely hid the whole beginning, one of the jump starters of the race massacre. I ain't gonna call it a riot. It's a massacre, right? They try to erase it. They try to act like it never happened. Like you said, they built a freeway over Greenwood. So now they were trying, even still, they were trying to come back and rebuild it. They started making laws. Somebody give me Daniel chapter 8 and 25 for me. Somebody give me Daniel 8 and 25. They started making laws so that then now when they came back, now because the white people, they was going around setting the curtains on fire so they can burn up the whole house, right? That's why they going around setting the curtains on fire. So then now when they came back to try to rebuild, they started making it almost impossible, because they said, well, now you got a new fire regulation that you got to follow. And now this fire regulation that they made them follow, it made it impossible for them to to have businesses again. So basically they used all of that. Then all of the rich white people that were there, they started getting their land basically for nothing. So just think about it. Black people, we bought the land, paid ridiculously high interest rates, paid it off, paid it all off, right? Built up our own city, picked ourselves up by our bootstraps, right? Did all of that, took care of ourselves, man, took care of each other, and they came and destroyed it overnight. This is in one night. This is not days. This is one night. Just think about it's starting right now, and when the sun comes up, your whole city is level, is on the ground, and you hiding behind a railroad track with your whole family. You don't know where the rest of your family is. You might even be with your family. You with one of your brothers or something. Your mother got stampled out, and you lost where she was, trying to run from white people shooting at everybody. They're coming in, trying to run away. they lined up. They're lined up. You remember where it says when Jerusalem get encompassed by armies to run to the hills? They were literally encompassed, surrounded all of Greenwood, right? With white men with guns. So when they were trying to get out, they were shooting them dead on the streets. Go ahead.
Like you're talking about like the black folks retreating, like you got Indian reservations there, so some of the black folks have to run to them because even our Native American brothers knew, you know what I'm saying, like y'all going against the devil. Like come here and get refuge and then move to wherever y'all need to go. Like it wasn't just running and everybody scattering and you like in the woods, like they had to run to the Indian reservations to get help.
They had to get out. They was refugees in the country that they built. Literally refugees. And then they had to sit inside. You know, just think about, like, you know, we got the Feast of Tabernacles. That's to remind us when we had to sleep in tents. Just think, these people that built up this whole city because of a damn devil, because devils destroyed the whole city. Now they all living in tents for 6 months to years. There's a whole tent city they gotta live on. They're trying to live on in Greenwood because they didn't think of us as that we should own what we own. That's really what it is. We shouldn't have it. They should have it because they felt like we should be working for them so that they can have it. But then they seen we got it. They wanted it. It was even it was somebody that said before. I remember I was watching a documentary. He said basically, these niggas got better stuff than we do. When they go inside their house looting, they heard them because they hide it in closets and under the bed or whatever, and they heard them say, these niggas got better stuff than we do. That's why they killed us. They felt as though we didn't deserve it. Go ahead.
If I may, they say that today, you know what I'm talking about, the black athletes, the rappers, and all the entertainers and all that, you know, the preachers that got all these, you know, these nice cars, big houses and all that. The poor white trash, you know what I'm saying, they literally say they say that very same thing today. And even some middle class, upper, you know, and the rich, you know, Caucasian old person, they all say the same thing, you know, to this day, boy.
And the reason why, like, church members, like churches, they don't want us to do that because they say they trying to save each other, try to save black people because they don't want us on us again. Because you know, better believe, we start having our own. Don't think, you know, these old presidents ain't gonna come in and try to dismantle us. They gonna be probably a little bit more slicker than coming in, you know, throwing bombs on everything. What they gonna do? They gonna come in and they gonna plant drugs inside of the buildings, so now they can get raided. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna be a little bit more slicker than they used to be. So, but that because they don't want to see us doing better than them, even though they know that we're better than them. They know it. They know even through slavery that black people have proven to be better than them. But the pride of their heart, deceiveth them. They feel as though this should be theirs because they was that firstborn. They was Esau. They feel like the whole earth should be theirs when they don't deserve the whole earth. They the most wicked nation, right? Where does the wicked need to be? In the basement. They need to be where nobody can see them. And what the Most High said He gonna do with them? He gonna make it ain't gonna be none of the house of Esau. We're going to look at them in museums like, man, you know, we're going to tell our children, man, you believe he used to run the whole world? That's what's going to be Esau. You know, they got museums of like, they'll stuff like an animal or something. That's what they're going to be, a stuffed animal. Right? Let's see if I can get some more on here.
A white-dominated society.
White policemen could come into the community at any point and arrest anyone. Most of the wage earners in Black Tulsa had white bosses. So Black Tulsa, while it boomed and had a measure of independence, was also under the thumb of white Tulsa's political and police authorities.
Many African American communities in the United States were thriving in the 1910s and 20s. But the high level of home ownership in Greenwood made Tulsa's black district distinctive.
Now, for some white people, a black person with any wealth, then as well as today, is something that created jealousy.
Race relations in Tulsa were poor in the early 1900s. The KKK had an enormous presence in Oklahoma and in Tulsa particularly.
This era would see the racist roots of segregation boil over into numerous armed conflicts throughout the United States.
The Tulsa race riot of 1921, it really is set against the backdrop of a multitude of race riots in America. 1919 was known as Red Summer because literally blood was flowing in the streets. There were over 25 major race riots in 1919 in America.
These riots occur in Minnesota, Nebraska, Pennsylvania, and elsewhere throughout the country.
Nebraska, you know the black people out there, didn't
you?
They occurred in Nebraska.
Which leaves 38 people dead and 1,000 black families homeless.
The important thing to remember about race riots during this period is that they are characterized by whites invading black communities. These are not black communities that are erupting. These are white citizens, sometimes aided by the police, who are en masse invading black communities, attacking black businesses, and attacking black homes.
So who's the real rioters and the looters?
In 1921, the fires of racial intolerance spread to Tulsa. The person who serves as the spark for Tulsa's riot is Dick Rowland. A 19-year-old black man, Rowland dropped out of Booker T. Washington High School so he could earn some money shining shoes in downtown Tulsa.
While some kids stayed in high school and went ahead and graduated, there was also a great desire by many others to go out and make some money. And you could make money in Tulsa. Even if a bootblack could shine an oil man's shoes and might get a tip of $1 or $5. That was incredible money in 1920, 1921. So to drop out of school was not all that unusual.
Worked downtown, and during that era, the era of the riot 1921, there was really only one restroom that was readily accessible to African Americans, and it was on an upper floor of a downtown building called the Drexel Building.
The elevator operator at the Drexel Building is a young white woman named Sarah Page.
On the morning of May 30th, 1921, as he often did, Dick Rowland went into the Drexel Building, got onto the elevator to go and use the restroom. But something happened on the elevator. I'm not exactly sure what did, but what probably happened is that as he stepped onto the elevator, he tripped and fell into Sarah Page.
To this day, no one knows for certain what happened when those elevator doors closed. But what is known is that shortly after entering the elevator, Dick Rowland was seen running out, leaving behind a screaming Sarah Page. Tuesday, May 31st, 1921. One day after Dick Rowland allegedly assaults Sarah Page on an elevator in downtown Tulsa, the police arrest Rowland and take him to the jail on the top floor of the courthouse. The incident becomes the talk of Tulsa.
The story went around that he had touched her, hit her, knocked her to the ground, and it escalated and became more inflammatory with each telling.
Ultimately, things
It started getting worse and worse,
totally
going from person to person.
And a large player in all this was the Tulsa Tribune, one of the major papers in town. The Tulsa Tribune ran a story titled "Nab Negro for Attacking Girl in Elevator."
This inflammatory article strongly implies that Dick Rowland, a black man, had raped the young white elevator operator, Sarah Page. 3:15 p.m. The newspaper hits the streets of Tulsa. Over the next 17 hours, the city will be consumed by a race riot on a scale never before seen in America.
By about 4 o'clock,
start to have a crowd of whites gathering in front of the courthouse, the downtown courthouse, where Dick Rowland was held. Over the next couple of hours, that crowd grows in size from 100 to 200 to 300 to 400 people.
8:20 p.m. Tulsa's Sheriff Willard McCullough orders a group of armed whites out of the courthouse. When his instructions for the crowd to disperse are ignored, McCullough takes precautions to protect Dick Rowland.
He guards all of the stairways leading up to the top floor of the jail. He also disconnects the elevator going on and posted armed guards up to where Dick Rowland was held.
9:15 p.m. False reports that the courthouse is being stormed by the white mob reach Greenwood, where the community is gathering to discuss what action they should take.
African American men in Tulsa decided that it was time to take a stand, that lynching a 19-year-old black man for an alleged assault was going too far.
Yeah, that was going too far. They want him to have a trial, right? It's their laws. They want him to have a trial.
Rush to the courthouse.
They just tried to get him in the angle.
Assured by the sheriff that Rowland would be safe, the men returned.
So the sheriff told him he'd be safe, so they ended up leaving.
Remains.
That might have been the end of the story, but it wasn't. After seeing this initial group of blacks, whites then started to arm themselves much more so than they had.
So they started grabbing more guns and more guns.
Mob swells to about 2,000. Once again, word reaches Greenwood that a lynching is imminent. A group of armed blacks return to the courthouse. Again, they are turned away.
But as they were walking back to their cars, a white came up to a black vet and said, "Where are you going with that gun, nigger?" And the black vet said, "I'm going to use it if I have to." And the white man said, "No, you ain't." The tussle started off, a shot was fired, and the race riot was over.
The situation in Tulsa quickly spirals out of control.
After those first shots were fired, at that point, the white rioters forgot about Dick Rowland entirely. They were out to get all blacks for what they perceived as crimes against whites and black lives.
During the rest of the night, small excursions by whites into the district are withheld, but the residents of Greenwood will not be able to hold them off for long.
Once the sun was up and the mass invasion of Greenwood happened, whites would typically come in, they would be fighting gun battles with blacks who were defending their homes and businesses before being overwhelmed.
When the riot starts, many police officers abandon their duties. They side with the white rioters, deputizing many of them and detaining as many blacks as possible.
So they detaining the black men with the guns.
Taken to detention centers on the notion that that would be for their protection. But what that did was essentially to leave the black community defenseless.
Anybody who was white could arrest, detain, anything to anybody who was black and get by with it. And in fact, they were encouraged to do so.
I remember men taking my father to a place where they kept prisoners at 11th and Elgin, McNulty Park. Other than that, I never saw my father anymore during the race ride. I just remember my mother taking care of us.
They left to just women and kids.
The early morning hours of June 1st, 1921. With most members of the community in detention centers, their home.
Which is sad because that's what they did to the Seminoles. The Seminoles, they came, when the men was out at war, they went and killed the women and children. Before, that's how they ended up taking over that place, you know, before they brought them over here through the Trail of Tears. Came and killed women and children. So like that goes for like I've heard black women say that the white man got it right about everything. Well, he seemed like he loved his woman. He seemed like he loved all that. No, he hates black women. He just looks at you. You're like an exotic sex being to him. White women look at black men the same way as well. There's both ways. You're like an exotic sex object. And that's the only thing they think about you as. They don't think about you as you're human, you're a human being. They don't care about that. You're something, I ain't never had a black woman before. That's how they think of you. Literally. So, lay it out. Go ahead.
I was just listening to that. They were saying, like, you know, they went to the detention centers and stuff like that. Like, when they left the city, they had to go to one of the main refugee spots for them leaving. TULSA from the bombing was Telepark. They called Telepark. That's what one of the reservations and stuff is. So they had to go to another people because they knew when they left, they didn't know what they were coming back to. They didn't know if their family members were still alive. They didn't know. So like you said, when people left, and like the guy said, he's like, I didn't see my father after that. They left. They had no idea.
They got separated from family. They arrested all of the men. All of that. You know what I'm saying? We probably wouldn't have turned out as bad because the men would have been fighting. But that's why, and that's also like gun control laws. You know, they always want to get rid of guns and everything. The truth of the matter is guns, and they're trying to remove guns from white people. That's what you got to get out of people, even black people. Like even like I said last time, like I don't even understand why in the people in the world they want Democrats so much when they want to get rid of guns. I never understood that part. But it's like they want to get rid of your guns so you can't protect yourself. They don't care about white people. You know the dude that killed all those people in Vegas, right? You know him. You know something that's weird about him? He was rich. He was wealthy. So all the gun control laws he could have bypassed with his money. They're basically trying to make it too expensive for you to have guns, right? So he could have bypassed all of that because he was a millionaire. They don't tell you that part. He wasn't poor like us. He wasn't you. You know, they try to make it so you got to pay $500 a year to have a gun, per gun. They're trying to do stupid stuff like that, right? But he could afford that. So none of those gun control that they're trying to do would have affected him. Which shows you the real person they're trying to take him from is black people. They don't want black people to be able to protect yourself. Because you see what they did here? The black people had guns. What they do? They put them in the middle of this park and they put them basically in cages. So they disarmed them. But what did they do with the white people? Gave them guns. And a badge to do the crime with. Somebody says, Salakia.
Salakia, sir, if I may. I come on, watched a story about that the other day. You know, they're real heavy on the Watertown Bay. The devil, his name was Stephen Paddock, and they brought it out in a little documentary. His brother was saying how he got all these guns, he got money, and all this stuff, you know, all this privilege he got, and still it's not enough for him. He still got to go ahead and commit murder, you know, because the devil's aggressive, not the speakers, sir.
Exactly. Still got to do it. Because like I said, none of these things affect them. Oh, Biden, he don't care. Biden, he don't care about getting guns. He can afford to have guns. He don't want you to have one. It's just like that's just always. It never made sense to me why we was always so democratic when Democrats was like the worst people. Like when it comes to how fast we getting destroyed, Democrats was winning the race compared to Republicans, right? That's just how, because, you know, at least Republicans are not for abortion, right? They don't want women aborting babies. Democrats, go ahead, abort them. So now we aborted, what, 400? It was at one point, it was 400,000 babies getting aborted a year. about black women, they're for that. Democrats are for that. That could have been one of those babies that was killed, could have been the next savior of Israel. That could have been Samson right there. You just aborted them. And that's what they wanted. They wanted us to abort each other. They didn't want us to have our babies. I've even heard of stories when white women, they'll go to an abortion clinic. Black women, they'll go to an abortion clinic and they'll see like a class they have with white people teaching them, showing them all of the dangers of having an abortion, what you got to do to that child, and how they do the abortion, how demented it is. Like they literally scrape the baby out of you, piece by piece. They show all of that to try to, to make it so that they don't do it, to not incentivize them to do it. But black women, just go ahead and do it. Because it was started by Margaret Sanger, which y'all know Margaret Sanger. She was a racist. She hated black people. That's what she wanted. She wanted black women to abort their babies. All right. Let me get a little bit on this documentary here, and we're gonna probably close out the class. This is like a newer version of it.
They was giving notice out on the street, leave town, they're killing all of the black people.
An entire community was destroyed. Their wealth was taken from them.
It looked as if it was Hiroshima. Atomic bomb had gone off. What few trees were left had no leaves. They were just charred.
And then the story was suppressed until almost now.
So they say the trees didn't even have no damn leaves, man.
It becomes known as Black Wall Street.
These are people who own their own homes. They had their own businesses.
I thought white people loved to hug trees. Nope. They was burning the hell out of them damn trees.
In 1921, on May 31st through June 1st, was 18 hours.
They was burning the hell out of them damn trees, man.
I never want to see anything like that again. Never.
We don't know who fires the first shot, but that begins a bloodbath. African Americans are attacked in their homes. They are machine gunned down in the street.
Machine gun.
They woke up to the sound of bullets hitting their homes.
Before the 20s and the 30s, you can have machine guns.
So the houses will burn. Airplanes, the morning of June 1st, flying over the city and dropping turpentine bombs. You are seeing them get away with murder. Murder.
It wasn't the only event that took place during a period known as the Red Summer of 1919.
Ultimately, it was all covered up. There are generations of folks who grew up in Tulsa who never heard about this.
Most people in Tulsa don't even know about this, so they leave.
And there is rebuilding in that period of time.
The same will, ingenuity, and determination of black people to make a way out of nowhere. The charred remains of their hopes, the embers of their dreams, and yet from that wreckage, they've rebuilt.
And we believe very strongly that black Tulsans deserve truth, reparations, and repair.
To you, I'm Gail King. 100 years ago today, one of the ugliest chapters in American history took place. The massacre of as many as 300 black people by their white neighbors and the destruction of the Greenwood section of Tulsa, Oklahoma. Greenwood was a source of pride for blacks back in 1921. Famed educator Booker T. Washington coined the business district the Negro Wall Street because it was so prosperous and rich with many black-owned businesses. Tonight, we will explore what happened that day. What was behind the single worst incident of racial violence in American history? Survivors, descendants, and historians try to explain why it happened and how the city and the country still struggle to move on from this tragedy. So here's the question. What did happen on May 31st, 1921?
The Greenwood District was a segregated residential and economic district because it had to be, because of legal segregation that prevailed, not just in Tulsa, but really all over much of the United States.
They built schools, they built churches, they were educated, they were organized, they had social clubs. It was a vibrant community. They had their own businesses.
These are mostly small businesses, all concentrated in this 35 square block area that abutted downtown Tulsa, separated by the Frisco tracks.
But there was tremendous resentment, white resentment, to the economic success of Greenwood. Whites understood that economic prosperity would ultimately lead to questions of racial equality, social equality. Racial equality, social equality was a non-starter. Segregation was the rule of the land.
What was life like in Greenwood then? I asked two survivors of the 1921 massacre. Viola Fletcher is 107.
Well, we had friends and played outside and visited with neighbors and was happy there with our parents. Just loved being there.
And 106-year-old Leslie Benningfield Randall. What was it like before the men came in with guns? What were there stores? Was there movies?
It was getting to be a pretty nice place. They had theater and they had other places of recreation and they had churches. And they came in and tore it all down.
There were approximately 200 businesses in Greenwood circa 1921. And not one of those businesses are left standing.
Not one.
The 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre occurs, triggered, catalyzed by an event between two teenagers. A black teenage boy, Dick Rowland, 19 years old, he shines shoes downtown. A white girl, Sarah Page, 17 years old, who operated an elevator in a downtown building called the Drexel Building.
We don't know exactly.
Work from a
Attacking girl in an elevator.
So nab Negroes for attacking girl in elevator.
Implies that there needs to be a lynching tonight. And so black World War I veterans come down to the courthouse to protect this young man from being lynched.
One of the white men in the crowd attempts to...
This how black men don't protect the people, right?
Veterans.
That's what they was doing right here.
It hits a white bystander, and they began firing on the black man.
In the words of a number of survivors of the massacre, all hell broke loose after that. The violence lasted roughly 16 hours. The black men in the Greenwood community put up a vigorous, albeit short-lived, defense. They were outnumbered, outgunned.
The sheriff has deputized a number of white citizens who have no training in law enforcement, mob control. They have now been given legal permission to participate in mayhem, looting and murdering.
Some of the people in the Greenwood community had fine things like pianos and china and so forth.
I saw them break in people's houses and just destructive. That's all I saw, just destruction.
And they would give a notice out on the street, leave town, they're killing all of the black people.
My mother looked out the front door and she saw 4 men with torches walking from the street sidewalk to our house. And all of a sudden, she said, all of you get up under the bed, quick, quick. And all of us scrambled. They came in.
Remember, the men is out trying to protect the boy, and they put them all in, they locked them all up.
And my sister put her hand over my mouth to be sure to stop me, because she could tell I was fixing to holler because it hurt.
People are shooting guns and killing people and all. If we don't leave, they'll do us that way.
Many eyewitnesses report that planes dropped what I'll call incendiary devices on the community. So these would have been nitroglycerin or kerosene bombs that caused the flames to spread more rapidly or brilliantly. So this had a devastating impact on the community.
Men came in and started shooting them. I do remember a lot of people being murdered.
These people escaped their homes.
They said it was only 300 people murdered.
And others are gathered
Well,
by
that's
a
a
white
lot.
mob and marched, in my grandfather's case, to the convention hall. They were stripped of their civil rights. Black men, women, and children were forced to leave their homes, and they are forced, with their hands raised, to walk, to be paraded through the streets,
taken to internment centers throughout the city, very much like people of Japanese ancestry were interned during World War II.
I would say it's not just a massacre. This was intentional and systematic. What occurred is a military-style assault on a civilian community.
It's a military style.
Do you think about that day a lot, or do you try never to think about it?
Oh no, I think about it every day. I think it'll be something I'll never forget. The people getting killed had to give up our home and all.
I want every world to know I never want to see anything else like that anymore. And I hope it never happens again.
Look at the trauma that they got. And you think that don't get passed on to generation to generation. They basically trained black people not to have their own communities no
more. But it
more.
also caused harm to generations of descendants who lost more than their ancestors and material wealth. They lost a legacy of success that is hard to imagine or quantify.
They lost a legacy. So I ain't gonna keep it too long because we gotta get in time. See, that's what they got. Black Wall Street. That's what's left of Black Wall Street. Because they built a freeway over it. And guess what's right down the street from it? A Jewish Holocaust Museum. Right? They ain't even happened there. The Holocaust happened overseas. But it's down the street from there, a Jewish Holocaust Museum. It's easier to find a Jewish Holocaust Museum than it is to find the memorial. So that's literally how they show you every day how they hate you. This is why we should ultimately just separate from life and stay away. We should show what real hate is and just stay the hell away. Go ahead real quick.
The one real quick. If we build Black Wall Street to be better, or like double what it was before, and I believe it was in the 60s, they came back with an urban renewal project on highways right in the middle of our businesses and crushes again.
Yeah, that theater that was known, that's a freeway now. A lot of other places they just got open, they bulldozed through all of the businesses and they just open land now. So now they coming in, white people of course coming in, taking the land and building Starbucks up there. And that's what Martin Luther King wanted. He didn't want us having our own. He wanted this. He wanted the memorial for it. He didn't want us to have our own no more. That's what he did because he wanted to see a damn movie. Literally. He started a whole civil rights movement because black people saw their movies a year later than the white people did. So he did this whole thing, sold us out, because we did rebuild Black Wall Street. But guess what happened? Because when desegregation happened, now black people were no longer forced to have to shop with black people, which we should have been in the first place. Now we can shop with everybody else. So all those businesses got closed down, foreclosed, and they lost the businesses that they did make in. They lost them. Go ahead.
So like just to add on to that point that you're making, like it was 40-something blocks of Black Wall Street. You know, so just me being from the city, I know for a fact they built 2 highways called Gilcrease Highway and L.I.Pittsburgh Highway. They built them over that city. So there's nothing there. And the only thing you can see is that Christian church with that big cross that's sitting up there. But then what they do is a marketing scheme to say, okay, we'll build Black Wall Street, but the white man got their hand in it. Like, we have to go to our oppressor for all of it. So the businesses that's down there, that's not Black Wall Street. Like, you got a barbershop here, you got a clothing store here, there, but Black Wall Street had hospitals, schools. And none of that's down there right now. It's not the same. But you can call it that for a marketing scheme for people to go down there, and it's a tourist attraction. But it's not the same at all.
That's what Christ says. Even Christ was saying they make merchandise of you. Your slavery and your massacre when they killed you, they just made it. They making money off of it. They already killed you, took it, put their own businesses there, did whatever, built the freeway there. Now they gonna come and bring it back. That's the I can't stand about our oppressor, man. They'll go and destroy all the records of things, and they'll want to come back as archaeologists and dig it up and try to bring it back and try to say all of this and then sell it to terrorists. That just show you how wicked they are, man. But it would have been there if they would have destroyed it. You know what I'm saying? It wouldn't have been there. Go ahead, sir. Hold on 1 second.
Family members that you got a smoke shop on Black Wall Street. So you're going to destroy your people with the smoke shop. But then the taxes you give to the white man. So you, man, I don't understand. There wasn't no smoke shops on Black Wall Street.
No,
ain't no vape shops or none of that.
No, it wasn't none of that. All right, go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
But the white man, he tried to portray, like, when we had only black water fountains and black businesses, like, he tried to portray like that era was, we was doing bad without him being involved. But the whole time we were doing great without him being involved. It was our own people that want to be integrated with them because they felt like they wasn't, you know what I mean, on a good,
on a high enough level.
Yeah, and we need to go back to the mall nigga pies, man. And leave the all white pies alone. You know what I mean, ain't nothing wrong with the nigga pie.
Like, I remember one time I heard what Kevin Hart said. Kevin Hart said, every time he attains like a new level of wealth, what he said was white people open up another door that he see what real money is. That's how you can kind of explain to what the preachers were. They were getting exposed to that wealth. They were being sold a dream, basically. He said, well, yeah, if you sell out your people, this is how you can live. Now you can ride around in this boat. You can ride around in a $30 million yacht. You can do all of this. But you got to mislead your people. And they sold out. They say, you know what? It's better for me to live this and you live in the projects while I go live, I be in a jet looking down on you. So that's what he said our pastors cause us to err. Right? Anything else?
Thank you, sir.
Go ahead.
Kyle, just want to add on what my fellow trooper brought out. You know, it's real heavy. You know, also, I think there was about one sister that we built after the massacre. She had a salon. and she was divorced, and she was, you know, she was struggling, right? But she was doing okay. I think her rent was about maybe less than $500. And the Chamber of Commerce in the city, they just raised the rent. The chamber itself raised the rent in that neighborhood, you know, like $700, $1,400, and now she got to shut down. You know what I mean? The only sister that survived, you know, doing one of the few, and you know what I mean? And the other stuff is also said to one class, the water, sir.
The water for that. And it was one I probably had to try to find another time, but it was they did an interview on some of the people that were survivors of it, and this lady, she just telling all of the, you know, she like expressing herself, trying to say all the destruction that happened to her family and the people, the city that she was, you know, loving, because, you know, she didn't know, like, because this city was prosperous, so she probably got hidden a little bit from our oppressors. Because you gotta remember, like, we had our own schools. When did she really have to deal with the oppressors? Probably never. Because her parents went to work. They went to the white side of town to go to work and came back to Tulsa, came back to Greenwood. So she didn't really have to deal with them, right? And then while she in there expressing the whole thing, telling about she looked and she said family members she still ain't never seen again. You know, this devil had the nerve to ask her, do you hold any type of hatred in her heart for white people? That's what he concerned with. He not concerned with how can she try to repay nothing, or how can the government try to repay nothing. He said, do you hate me because of it? Hold on, hold your peace. He's concerned about, do you hate me because of it? And because he know he gave you that Christianity, that you gotta forgive him. No matter what, you gotta forgive him. He knows that. That's the whole thing in his mind. He thinking, well, you gotta be a good Christian, you gotta forgive me. But the whole time, like I said, that's the only thing that shows you the lack of compassion. And this was a Jewish so-called white man. I think it was on Donahue, if I'm not mistaken. That's a Jewish man. That's the only thing he was concerned with. The whole crowd gasped when he said that. That's what his concern was. Do you hate white people because of this? And you know what? She answered it. I can't remember what she said, but she answered it oh so eloquently. But yeah, she should hate every white person that ever existed because of what they did to her family. That's what she should do. But she should hate them righteously and stay the hell away. Don't ever trust them. Don't ever come back in their communities and love them again. They should always stay away from them. Go ahead, up.
So like the other one, I say like, you know, just to come from a city that was flourishing, that got destroyed by the oppressor, right? You put like the spirit of that city is still so destroyed. You see what I'm saying? It's crazy of that side of town where you know it's drug raid, gang raid, and all that. But to even put a war to make them look bad on the spotlight, like Tulsa, Oklahoma is on first 48. Like that's one of the smallest cities in the world.
Oh, it's very small. You be in and out of it in 10 minutes.
Showing the destruction of these people, but ain't nobody thinking about Black Wall Street unless you in the truth with I.S.U.P.K or whatever. You see what I'm saying? Like most people turn on TV, everybody watch First 48. You see Tulsa, Oklahoma. And you're like, damn.
And that's the whole thing. See, because the reason why the place was destroyed is because, of course, our oppressor, but it's because we rather be a Christian. That's why the place got destroyed, because we wanted to be a Christian. Christianity is part of that destruction. Because we had cities rise up against us before, didn't we? We had nations rise up against us before, right? What happened when we was following the law? Anybody got an idea what happened when we was following the law when other nations came upon us?
So I got one.
Go ahead.
Our living God was with us.
Exactly. Give me Judah 5:20 real quick. Judah 5 and 20. I'm going to say this and I'm going to close it out. I'm going to close out the class. Judah 5 and 20.
The book of Judah, chapter 5 and verse 20. Now therefore, my Lord and Governor, if there be any error against
Now,
these people.
now just to tell you the backstory, it was somebody that, it was like a king. He went and sent somebody to get like some information. He doing reconnaissance, right, to try to learn about Israelites. So now he's giving them his report. He told them about how Moses went and took over, like how he was, when Moses got saved by the Red Sea. He's talking about Joshua. He's talking about all of this stuff here. And this is his report back. It's lucky. This is his report back to that king. All right, keep going.
And they sin against their God.
So he said, if there be any error in his people, and they sin against their God. Keep going.
Let us consider that this shall be their ruin.
It would be their ruin. They knew they could come destroy us because even though we was living together, living in harmony, right? We were still loving white Jesus. We were still celebrating Christmas, Thanksgiving, Valentine's Day. We were still celebrating all of these things. So they're able to come and destroy us because of that. You see the brothers here, they were sharp according to the world, right? What is one thing you know is that was missing on all of them? None of them had a beard, did they? I don't know if y'all peeped that out or not. None of them had a beard, right? They weren't keeping the laws. They probably going to church on Sunday, doing a hallelujah breakdown, all that, right? Keep going.
And let us go up, and we shall overcome them.
So they saying that let us go up, we shall overcome them. If they're sinning, we should be able to overcome them. That's what they knew. They sinning over there. They sinning against their God. We can overcome them. But keep going.
Verse 21. But if there be no iniquity in their nation,
if there's no iniquity, there ain't nobody sinning. Because remember, Joshua, he was killing whole cities of people, and then they started losing because one man sinned. Right? He took a Babylonian garment that the Most High told him not to take, and all of a sudden, Joshua, he was getting wiped out. And he said, why are we getting wiped out? And they said, because God told him that because you have a sinner amongst you. So they took that man out, they found out who it was, and they killed him and all his family. Why they killed him and all his family? Because he was the reason that all of those thousands of Israelites died. Because one man sinned. Keep going.
let my word now pass by.
So he said, let it pass by. Don't mess with them if they don't sin. Don't leave them alone. Keep going.
Least their Lord defend them.
Because at least they Lord, which is the Most High, is going to defend them. Keep going.
And their God be for them.
And God is going to be for us, right? He's going to defend us and be on our side. Right now, he got his face turned against us. Right? Keep going.
And we became a reproach before all the world.
He said if they go and fight us while we not sinning, they're going to be a reproach against the whole world. Now that means everybody what that means is everybody can come back and now say that you shouldn't be ruling over me now. You let them Israelites beat you. That's basically what he's saying. So that's what you being a reproach. They're gonna reapproach. Why am I following you? Why are you over me? That's what it is, a reproach. Right? That's like, somebody leading over you, right? And you look at them like, man, you doing all this crazy stuff. Why should I be following you? That's what they're going to be saying to them. That's what a reproach is. All right? So, but that just shows you, don't let because like sometimes I'm a little inquisitive. So I'll talk to a heathen I'm like, hey, what was you taught about black people in your land? They were always taught black people were lazy. They were this, they couldn't come up with no type of civilization. But then when I tell them about Black Wall Street, you know, they first day, they like, their eyes get big. They had no idea that what black people have done for this country. But that's because all of it has been hidden from the whole world. And like somebody said, America is like, it's like one classroom in the school where all the doors closed. The rest of the world is going on, but the classroom is closed off. Nobody knows what's going on in America, except for us, of course. And then it wasn't until a lot of people start coming over here and start meeting black people, they start finding out all of the mess we had to deal with. So like I said, don't let nobody ever come and say black people, you know, ain't this, ain't that. Just shows you how great black people are when we come together. Got it?
My old teacher, well, she has a doctorate in literature. She originally was studying to be a history teacher. She did not know anything about Black Wall Street until my brother wrote a paper about it in her class 2 years ago.
God, they don't know nothing about it. This all has been hidden. They don't want us. They don't want black people to show that we are greater than white people.
Right.
They don't want that to be known. But let me tell you something. Black and Hispanic Native American, you are better than white people. That I'm not ashamed to say it. You are better. Right? And but the thing of it is, we need to act like it. That's the whole point. We need to act like we better. So when it comes like to the law, a lot of people think like it's restrictive. But no, if you're supposed to be ruling over a country, you gotta restrict yourself more than anybody else. You can't live free and be ruling over people. Where they do that at? Even the wicked white man got certain lines he don't cross. Right? There's a line somewhere. I mean, I don't know where it's at, but it's somewhere. Right? I mean, he kills people, we know that. But there's certain lines he's not going to cross. Usually it's the lines of it being publicly known. It's some line he ain't going to cross, right?
Right.
So how black people going to survive if we cross all lines? How are we going to be ruling over people, right? That's the thing. That's why all these other, being fake Israelite, being Kemetic, they don't have any rules. They don't have any rules to govern themselves, right? But we got 613 laws we're supposed to govern ourselves by, which makes us better than everybody else. So, like I said, don't let nobody else tell you black people they ain't great. They can't make nothing. They can't make their own city. The city will be destroyed if we had our own city. That is a lie. White people are the people that destroys every damn thing. It is not black people. White people destroys every damn thing with them along with their damn white Jesus. All right? And with that, I pass the class over to prison officer Natasha Young.
Here's the I.S.U.P.K security announcements. We're at the I.S.U.P.K start at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York. Rule for a new brother and sister. When a new brother and sister come to the school, there are limits for 6 months. They are here to be saluted only. They are here to set themselves of the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother and sister. There is another 6 months in which the brother and sister will court each other. After this 6-month period, the brother and sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment, the book of Numbers, chapter 18, verse 21, and the book of Malachi, chapter 3, verse 8 to 10. Ma'asra means 10 in the Hebrew. 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you, give to the church department or teacher. Priest fund, free or offer for priests, not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you would like to give. The Holy Convocation is going on right now. We're on the second day of the Feast of Hanukkah. That's going to be in the space of 8 days, so the last day will be Monday night. It will remind Akim of Wapian to check the bulletin board in the hallway. If anyone wants to be a trooper in the school, start wearing all black, boots, shirt, pant, headband, and a scarf. And for one more thing, before you go to the school, make sure you Google this address. The address is 3353 Glenwood Road, Decatur, Georgia. so it can help build algorithm and traffic for the area. And with that, men in Israel, Amayim, give a courtesy salute to the teacher. Men in Israel, Amayim Sabbat, Amayim, Barak, Yahweh Hashem Yahushua Barakatam.
Yahweh Hashem Yahushua Barakatam.
While I say to you in Hebrew, may the Most High in the name of Christ bless you. Yadim, the top, your hands down, Sarah, turn to sister Amida, and we stand. No, the right hand on your left, heel at a 45-degree angle. Head down, shame face to the Lord. I want to say Barak, put your right hand on your chest. Men Israel, Amida Sabbat, Amida, Barak,
Yahweh Shema Alatam B'Hashem Yahushua.
Yahweh Shema Alatam B'Hashem Yahushua.
Well, I just said to y'all sister is, may the Most High watch over you in the name of Christ. Yadim, the top, me hands down, classes